gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right.
Well, hello everybody. Hello friends. Welcome back for another episode. Here, let me get you a chair. Pull it up by the fire. Sit down, relax, stay a while. There's some more room for friends on the couch. Let's get started. Hey everybody, and welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed the new intro. So yeah, that's going to be a new part of the channel. Just kidding. Let's say just a little homage to a child show that I used to watch when I was a kid, and I'd say there was many Canadians that enjoyed that show when they were kids as well. So I just got it in my head to do my own little take on it. So I hope you enjoy that. But with that said, we're back for another episode of our chicken coop build. So I hope you guys are ready. We're just gonna go at a medium pace here. And take it easy. It's actually after 10 o'clock at night. My wife and kids are gone to sleep. I worked a couple of night shifts lately, so I'm still lagging behind on getting onto the day schedule. So I figured, why not take advantage of it? It's a Friday night right now, and so I shouldn't have much in the way of complaints of any noise if I need to run the saws or anything. And I figure I'll just come out in the shed and enjoy some time working on this chicken coop here with you guys. So, the only thing that would make it better probably is a bit of Pink Floyd or some kind of music, but such is the curse of putting videos on YouTube, is that when you include music, you pretty much infringe copyright and they make your video never possible of monetizing. Such is life, so we'll have to do it in the quiet, and we'll make our own music as we go. Alright, so as we left off last time, we did our eave pieces to extend the eave by 6 inches on both sides. So we'll be tacking those on, gluing those on in place, and we'll go from there. Other than that, we're going to put that 2x4 extra rafter on the inside to have that nailing surface for the ceiling. And we're either going to move on to sheeting the roof maybe, or we will do some more work on the nesting box. Yet to be decided. We'll play it by ear as we go. Alright, there we go. So that's the ramble done. Let's get on to the eaves. In the last video we spoke at length about these eave pieces and went through the construction and figuring them out and all that. So we got the 4 eave pieces ready to go. So instead of dilly-dallying around, I'm just going to go straight to fitment. So here is one eave piece, for instance. Alright, I'm sure there's a technical name for it, but I don't know it. And I don't care to look it up. We should be good as is. But just for a quick example, these will be going up like so, up to the midline of the ridge, and then out to the end. So they're actually not too hard to line up, but they are a little on the heavy side. So I'm going to just pre-start some screws and have these ready to put in as soon as I get them in place. Alright, so that's what we're going to do first. For these eave pieces, I'm going to be using 4-inch length screws, just to get a little bit more penetration and support. Even though the roofing is going to be attaching onto these eave extensions and providing that kind of sheeting support from above, I just want to, there's so much wood at the end of this chicken coop to make use of, I'm willing to go in a bit deeper on it and get a bit more support that way. As well, where this is kind of a narrow gap in the spacers, having a longer screw is going to give me a bit more penetration, especially because I'm going to be putting these screws in at an angle, and it's going to be using up a good bit of depth. Alright, so at this point as well, I'm going to swap this driver bit and get a longer one as well. So I'm just going to go get that now. Now we'll apply some glue to the contact side. Definitely going to need to buy more glue. I'm getting a bit low. That should be enough. So that's the first of the eave extensions finished. Wasn't too bad, a little bit tricky in spots. One of my boards was actually a little bit longer than the other, so it was giving me a space right in the middle of the peak. So I took my handsaw and just knocked the other one back a little bit in length so that they were even, and it matched up again fine. As well, this left side here is actually out probably like a 1/16 of an inch beyond the other, and I can't really get it to go in any more flush than what it is. So if it bothers me enough, I'll take the plane and just kind of just plane over it and even them out that way. But overall, I'm not really worried about it. So with that said, these are on good and strong. They're not coming off. So happy with that. I'm going to get the chicken coop turned around and put on the ones on the back. And that wraps up the eave extensions. They were actually more trouble than I thought. Those 4-inch screws that I was using, I don't know, maybe it was just those extended bits. They're Mastercraft ones from Canadian Tire. Maybe they're just not meant to hold up to driving that 4-inch screw using an impact hammer, but it just metal on metal spinning eventually, and smoke, and the bits just melted into circles and it wouldn't drive them. So maybe my bits are just getting used too much and they're starting to fail after doing all this, or I don't really know. But at the end of it, I just used regular 2.5-inch screws, drove them in nice and deep, used lots of them, and glue, and they're on there. So, and they're strong, they'll hold up, but I used a whole lot of screws instead of those deep 4-inch sinkers, you know. So that much is done. Bit more of a pain in the butt than I thought it was going to be. Kind of glad I left it till now instead of tackling it at the end of last video. So at least we're that far ahead. Next I will I think I'll get that 2x4 inside out of the way for the nailing surfaces for the ceiling, and that'll open it up to being able to sheet it and insulate it and vapor barrier the ceiling as well. And I do need to do some fascia on the end of all the rafters. My rafters were okay and I got them on, but when I look down the length of the rafters, there's definitely a little bit of in out going on there. So I'll just wing the fascia. I think I'm not too concerned, you know, how it looks up underneath. The fascia, I guess, is there. Maybe fascia is a short word for facade, which is fake. So you're faking what's underneath, making it pretty. That's what I'm going to assume, because that's what I'm going to use it for. So anyways, I'm going to measure out those inside 2x4 pieces. I think I'll finally use up my rafter template piece, and we should be good. But yeah, the end of this chicken coop definitely has a whole lot of wood, and just swinging it around here on the rollers, this thing is damn heavy. So when it comes time to roll this thing into place, once it's set, it ain't moving. Alright, so I'm going to get up and measure out those rafters. I'm not going to get into too much detail. It's just a piece of 2x4 on each end, and that'll be done. Alright. Now here we are inside the chicken coop. Our headroom is starting to dwindle, so it's a little bit harder to work inside here now. So I'm just going to take a knee, and now you can see the area that I'm talking about. It's basically just going to be another rafter, and it's stopping at the bird block. Alright, so I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer now and show you that. Alright, so this is the area we're talking about. So we're going to come down from the ridge beam and out as far as the bird block. Just make a vertical ending at the bird block, and it'll just be nailing on there, and another one on the other side here, and then 2 at the other end. And that'll just provide a block to screw up into when we're putting on the ceiling. Alright, so the measurement for that is going to be, see if I can stand up between these rafters here. So from the top of the bird block to So the top of the ridge beam is 25 inches. Alright, 25 inches, and then we'll just have that angle there down to vertical. So I will make 4 of those and install those. Using the template, or key to the city, this is going to be relatively easy, okay? Because we got the tip up here, which would normally go to the ridge board, okay? And we're just going to measure down. We said 25 inches. Okay, so 25 inches from the tip down to here. And here is 25. So now we're going to use a copy of our template to put the proper angle on that from that 25-inch mark. So we're going to have a little bit. We're going to have a little bit from that old bird's mouth of empty space, but that's quite fine. All right, we're going to do the same thing now with this copy piece. Measure 25 inches using that. I'm just going to double check that with the measurement instead of having to transfer my mark over. I'll just do 25 inches there. And then I'll use the template to do the angle to get the vertical for there. Alright, so there's our 2 cuts. And then, so we're going to lose those bird mouths. So it's not going to be a full rafter anymore. They've served their purpose. It's time to move on to greater things. So I'm going to cut these and then I'll make 2 more from a fresh piece of 2x4. So if you've been following along during this journey and the journey of angles when doing these rafters, you'll know that 27 degrees is our rafter angle. And even though we just used the template and marked everything out and traced it, I went straight to my miter saw, set 27 degrees, and it matches up perfectly. So we'll just carry on 27 degree cuts, and I'll do all of them now with the new piece as well. Just want to stop for a second. Let's pay our respects to the template. Nomine Patris Spiritus Sanctus. It served us well. Alright, let's make some more. And that should be all 4 of our pieces done. Here we are back inside the chicken coop. we have one of our, not the template piece, but the other one that we had done already. We'll fit that into place. And as expected, that is a perfect fit. And we'll go ahead and screw that in. And for the pièce de résistance, our friendly neighborhood template. Alright. Yeah, I know I've kind of made this template into a little bit of a character of our adventure here. But you know what? This played a big role in progress and confidence and problem solving, so it deserves a little bit of recognition. And I specifically chose this side for it to fit in so that the word template would be visible. So if anyone ever takes the ceiling down in this chicken coop in the future, or the roof off of it, they'll have this lovely word template staring them in the face when they look at that area. Alright, let's screw it in. Put it where it belongs. There we have it. That's the template in place. Now, so it's a bit of a tight squeeze in here, to be honest, with the tripod, and I've done this twice on video. I'm just going to go to the back end and pop those in real quick. If I have any troubles, I'm sure I will tell you about it. Otherwise, let's all pretend that everything is all merry and great, and first time is the charm for everything, right? Alright, so I'm going to pause you guys while I go and put those two pieces up, and then we'll be back. Hey guys, so I just wanted to bring you up here and show you something. If you remember when I was taking the length off of the template, I noticed that there was a bit of bird mouth gap that that I thought was just going to be wasted space. Anyways, have a look at these two end pieces that all I did was cut at 27 degrees and at 25 inches. Imagine that. They're sticking up above the rafters. That little extra inch or so of bird's mouth was actually quite required to get these to seat down properly into place. So I'm just going to head down to the chop saw and take off about an inch, and I'll come back up and install these, and I'll get back to you. So like I just said, first time being the charm, just doesn't happen around here. That's just not our way. So here you go. This is a prime example of having to go down and make another couple of cuts. And the template, it prevailed. It did it right first time. Alright, moving on. So that brings us to the end of the roof framing, per se, and on towards the finishing stages. First thing on the list with that is going to be the fascia. Alright, so we went through that a second ago. I believe this might be the one. I have some 3-inch, I believe this is 3, so 4-inch, so 3.5 inch cedar. So what I have to do with this is go front to back, alright, encompassing all the ridge line. So it's going to take a full piece plus a bit to do the fascia. So I should be able to join that on the second last rafter. Pretty close down at the end. But we'll have to cut it a little bit short, so I'll just mark that. So yeah, we're going to get the fascia up. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. All you do, you take your speed square, put it on your roof line, and make sure your fascia is bumped up against your speed square, and then you nail it in at that level. It's as simple as that. You just go from one end to the other, and you got a fascia board covering up all your rafter tails. Alright, so I'm going to move you guys in a little closer, and we'll get that knocked out. So 85 1/4 on this end will bring us to the middle of this rafter, and then I'll do the rest after I get that one on. So 85 1/4. And I'll go tag that on the miter saw and be right back. So a big thing as well when doing a task like this, especially when making a video for you guys to be watching, I don't want to take this and make it look like it's more difficult than what it is. Now with that being said, it's kind of famous last words, you know, you say that it's easy and then you end up running into a big problem. But for the most part, this bit of fascia is pretty simple, okay? So don't be intimidated by this whatsoever. So one thing I've found in the past to work well is to start on the front end and work your way back. Instead of going down to the last rafter and attaching that in with the front one, at least this way as you're working your way along, if you need to kind of give the board a little push in any direction, you got a bit more leverage if you got that tail available to grab on and manipulate. So the only real hard issue that I'm having here is holding the board up properly while I'm trying to get it screwed in. That's honestly the hardest part right now for one fella working on this, because the end wants to fall down while I'm trying to hold it with my elbow. And like so, dropping my screws and stuff. So what I'll do is I'll try to start my screw before I even hold it up there, and hopefully that will help me a lot more. Okay, so let's begin this again. So I'm gonna hold this up, get my speed square, find it, bring it up to touch my speed square. See if you can see this. Alright, so right now it's touching my speed square. Right, so when the plywood goes on, it's going to follow this line of my speed square, and it'll touch on the fascia as well. And the fascia won't be in the way of it as well. It's a big part. And that's flush. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that in. Recheck. And we are good. Okay? So I'm going to kind of follow that along to our main heights of the roof line. Right? There's no point if you got a little valley of a 2x4 rafter like I have here, no point forcing yourself down there when really your high point is going to be here. So you bring it to your high point and then get ready to tack it in there as well. I'll get this one ready. Speed square that. That needs to come up to right there. Hold that in place. Tack it in place. Okay, and on we go now. See, I'm using the board, leveraging it up a little bit to bring it up where I need it. Good. Definitely having to put a bit of bend in this board, which is fine because the cedar is quite flexible. So I'll start a couple of screws here. So I actually got to put a good bit of force on this one. Once I get it in place right there, I don't want to have to let go. Alright, we're good there. We are good here. Seems the board is kind of straightening out nice. I actually got to pull down a little bit here, which is fine. Hold it right there. Needs to see if I can force this one up very much. Yeah. So now I can go along and reinforce all those. There we are. That is our first piece of facade in place. We're going to call it facade. All right, if you were listening earlier, instead of fascia, we're going to assume that's short for facade, which is fake. Covering up all our little raftering mistakes underneath. Good fascia. Alright, so that actually worked out very nice, actually. You'd almost think I knew what I was doing. Almost. Alright, so I'm going to measure now at the end and see what size piece I need for here, which is 21 1/8. So I'm going to get another piece of cedar. I'll cut 21 1/8 and I'll get down there and tack that on. Now we'll do the other side. I finished up the other one. So one thing to note as well while you're doing this, if you're working with thin boards and like cedar, is basically make sure pre-drill your holes at least on the ends. You know, one thing I could do down there is clamp like so. Maybe that'll hold it up a little bit for me. It might not help at all, we'll see. There we go. It works. Okay, so same deal. I'm going to put the screw in, ready to go. I pre-drilled the holes here at the end. Speed square, like so. Make sure it's flush with the edge. Actually come up a little smidge. Flush. Just put that like so for now. Looks good. Flush on the side. That's also good. So I can take this clamp out of the way now. Let the board settle down. Drill and speed square. Okay, so bring that up to meet. Okay, so at least now we got that started. Flush that in. Speed square, we are good. Good. Not good. So this one, like I say, we're going to do the same thing. Hauling it downwards. We'll get our screw started to make it easier. Put my speed square on, try to put a bit of weight on it with my arm. Like so. Nice. I'm not a lefty, so using the drill with my left hand is a little bit awkward. I probably could have weighed it down with my left arm, but I would have been right in your way then as well. So this one, oh my, we're making an ocean here, all kinds of waves. This one's going to be lifted up a lot. There's going to be a two-hander. I'll start my screw. I'm actually probably going to put two in here, just because there might be a lot of torsion on there, making it want to split. I just want to eyeball it with the speed square and put a marking on where I need to get this up to. Yeah, okay. No problem. Alright, it's going to be a Now for all you other guys out there doing fascia, you might have straighter rafters or straighter wood or something compared to me. But you know what? It's getting done slowly. Maybe you guys do the same thing. I'll just secure a little more at these ends here. Now this last bit doesn't seem too bad. I think, yeah, that one's already in line. This one needs to come up a smidge. Not a lot, just a bit. Now one thing I just noticed that I never did, I never cut this one to length for the join down here. So I'm going to have to do that. I'll probably do that while it's still on, because I got my screw holes done, so. Do this with the handsaw. Well, actually, I can manage to do this with the skill saw. So now that that's cut, remember what I said when we started about pre-drilling your holes. Now there's one spot that's already dying to crack. Like it's already pre-cracked pretty much. So I'll try and avoid that. So hopefully that'll help. It might not, but it'll try. And that only needs to come up just a little bit. Alright, so I'll measure for our last piece. That's going to be 21 and a quarter again. Plus, that was a 21 and an eighth last time. Now it's 21 and a quarter plus an eighth. Alright, so I'll cut that and we'll be good to put that on. Just check fitment. Looks great, so pre-drill some holes. And now I'll put that on and try to bend it into place. definitely going to want to crack to get it in place here. Now that we've finished our facade, alright, our little fascia here, I actually got to put one more screw in there in the front, but after that's done, what we're ready for is to put some plywood up on this roof. So in order to do that, we need some measurements, because our measurements have changed. Remember, since I added a foot of length onto the roof in order to get those eave outcroppings. So from the ridge, if I can hook onto one of these rafters here, is going to be 34 inches. And I probably want a little bit of plywood coming off of the edge, right? I don't want it exactly flush, but now the drip edge will add to it. I know some people have their plywood come out just a little bit, right? Probably like ½ an inch or so. So if I did that, let's say 35. If I do 35, that'll give me 3/4 to the middle, a little bit butting up against here. Like 35 or even 35 1/4. Yeah, I think I'd be happy with that. So if I do 3/4 for the middle of the ridge, be 35. Let's do 35 1/2, just to be safe. 35 1/2 wide. Now the length from front to back is 106. So we're going to be using a full sheet to begin with anyways. And a full sheet is 96, but it doesn't leave us on a nailing edge. So we're going to be cutting it short to 84 1/2. Alright, we'll cut it to 84 1/2. And then we'll go from there. Alright, so let's do our first piece, 84 1/2 long by 35 1/2 wide. 84 1/2, 35 1/2 by 84 1/2. And I think that'll give us a nice sheet. Now with that said, I may change that because we gave it about a ½ inch overhang down here. So probably should do a ½ inch overhang over there as well. So that'll give me 85. Yeah, I think I'm going to bump that up to 85 1/4 to be safe. This is one of those moments where you're dealing with such a big piece of plywood that costs like 30 bucks or more. You don't want to be cutting it too short on your first attempt. So yeah, so we'll do 35 1/2 by 85 1/4. Let's get to setting up our tables for that cut. So 35 1/2 wide. So we'll begin with that cut at the 35.5 inch wide. Alright, so next what we're looking at is 85.25 long. I'm just going to mark that out here. And again on the other side. I'm going to grab my level again and connect those. Alright, so our first sheet of plywood for the roof is done. And if all has gone to plan, it should be the same for both sides, okay, measurement wise. And after I measured the other side, I did measure this side and it was all working out to the same lengths. So, with that said, it's time to put our first piece of plywood on the roof and see how it goes. Alright, let's do it. Alright, so the piece fits up good, but I'm kind of making an executive decision here now after having it up on the roof. I do want a little more plywood hanging out the front. As of right now, it's kind of flush there, and I think it could look better if the plywood actually hangs off by, you know, a ½ inch or so. Yeah, I think a ½ inch should be nice. So that was 85.25. So I'm going to have to revisit it and cut it back to the next stud and cut it there. So I'll lose a rafter in length, but I'll get a fit better for what I'm actually looking for. So I'll go ahead and measure that up. So that measurement is going to be 69 plus a half, so 69.5. So I'll say 69.75 to be sure. And I'll make that cut and we'll be right back and try fitment again. I've played around with the plywood a little bit on the roof and found out exactly how I like it, and it turned out quite well actually. So we got 3/4 of an inch overhang on the front and about 1/2 inch on the sides, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'll screw this sheet down. It's ready to stay exactly where it is, and I'll carry on with that now. And there's the first sheet on the roof. Turned out quite nice. So it's starting to get late. I'm toying with the idea of calling it quits here now. But at the same time, I think I got one more in me. So I think I'll do the other side. I'll do the equivalent sheet of this, but on the other side. And I'll try to get the measurements better this time, so that instead of having to come back one of the rafters, hopefully the first cut will go one rafter further than this one actually did. And so I'm going to remeasure, and I'll cut, and I'll get right to actually sheeting the other side. Okay, you see me measure, you see me cut. You don't need to see that for the other side. You'll hopefully see a completed sheet going up on the other side. And that makes 2 plywood panels installed on the roof. It feels good, feels good. With that being said, it is 1:41 in the morning. I started this, what did I say, 10 o'clock? So we're going on the 4-hour mark. You know, I'd love to rip some more plywood and finish off the roof. But when it comes down to it, I need to get inside and start editing and get some rest at some point tonight. Even though, like I said, I did do a couple of night shifts, so I'm still pretty wired. But as far as continuing work on the chicken coop right now, I'm finished. The eaves gave me a little more trouble than I bargained for, mainly around the driver bits stripping out and the 4-inch screws kind of being a letdown. So that set me back a little bit time-wise, and as well, like I say, I had to take the handsaw and even up the boards at one point because they weren't meeting together properly. And then we did the fascia, and we did the ceiling 2x4s inside, and we did those panels of plywood. So we actually got a lot done. Like I say, it's almost 4 hours time, and there hasn't been a whole lot of downtime in that period of time. So we're going to clue it up there, and I may get back at this again tomorrow. I'm not totally sure. My wife has to work some shifts now coming up. So I'll be watching the kiddos, and so may not get back out here for a little while. I'll try and see if I can get out here tomorrow, but at the same time we got Mother's Day on Sunday, and so see what I can do for my wife on that day. I kind of got to get my sleep schedule straightened out, so at least I'm awake on Mother's Day to celebrate that with her, and that would be ideal for both of us, I'm sure. So yeah, I think we made great progress. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the like button, and ring that notification bell, and you'll be notified of the next time I release another video. But with all that said, I hope you guys are happy, and I hope you're healthy. Make sure to take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.